So yesterday we have discussed about the dynamic lookup cache. It is same customer having multiple records in the same day. Then how you are going to do this? It's what is all about dynamic lookup cache. Today's agenda is extract the data from a table and load the data into a target table. This is just a business scenario. A lot of people have few questions. Maybe one major question in project is when the session fails in the loading process, in the middle of the loading process, when the session fails, what shall we do? Let us say you have to extract the data from this table and you need to load the data into this table. So when you do this, let us assume that we extracted the data and Informatica is loading row by row data into the target table. One row at a time, it is trying to load the data into the target table. So after it loaded 5 records, it failed. Means after loading 5 records, it failed means that is a commit interval. The way the word works in any database, when you are loading the data, when you are inserting the data, or when you are insert the data, or update the data, or delete the data in a table, after you insert or update or delete the data, you have to set the commit interval. When you set the commit interval in Informatica, in any database, so after it loads that many data, it sends a commit. Basically, in any database, I don't know much about SQL Server. What in a database, they have what we call it as one database server. You can create multiple databases, and a database contains what we call it as a rollback segment. In Oracle perspective, I'm talking about. So what happens? At the server level, this is your table. You are inserting the data into this. Already there are 100 tables, 100 rows in this. You are inserting. If you want to have that data permanently in that table, then you say commit. Then it commits. If not, you will say rollback, means rollback to the previous status. So whenever you are inserting these 100 rows, it will load the data into this table, and also there is a memory, a segment, rollback segment they call it. In that also, after the 100 rows, whatever you are loading, those rows of data will be have been written into this rollback segment also in a database. So you are inserting into a table, parallelly it will write into the rollback segment. If you say rollback, whatever you have written, that will be removed from this. But how does it know which has been inserted? Taking from this rollback segment, it will roll back those records. Same way, if you update the records in the target table, or let me give you a delete statement. There are 100 rows in this table. You delete it. Let's say 10 rows. Whatever you have deleted, those rows, 10 rows will be written into the rollback segment in database. I'm nothing to do with data warehouse. I'm talking from a database perspective. Now, if you say commit, then these rows in the rollback segment will be removed. Already you have deleted in this. So when you say commit, this rollback segment data will be removed. If you say rollback, then whatever is being deleted will be written back into the table. This is called rollback. So you have inserted the data, you didn't say commit, you roll back, means it will go to the previous level. This is the way in a database works. You may load millions of records into the table, but if you don't say commit, in the next batch, it will not be permanent in the table. If it is to be permanent in the table, you have to commit it. So, in Informatica, when you are inserting the data into the target table, by default, the commit interval is set to 10,000. That the workflow session properties, by default, they set it to 10,000. Means after every 10,000 records, it will send a commit, insert or update or delete. So, are you clear about this scenario, please? This rollback segment, this database, what is commit, what is rollback. So, this is what happens at the database level. Now, after 5 records is loaded, session failed. Means commit interval was set to 5 records. After 5 records it loaded, it sent a commit. Then it is loading the next 6th record, 7th record. At the 8th record, session failed. At the 8th record, if the session is failed, you won't be seeing the data in your target table. Those after commit, what has been loaded into the target table, after commit you will not see in the, because it has not sent the commit interval to the target table. Because next commit will be after 5 records, so session failed. In Informatica or in a data warehouse or a ETL consultant, when the session fails, what you do? You look at the data is a problem, or Informatica server was up and running, or network is a problem, or database is a problem. Like this, you will try to find the reasons. Data problem, or Informatica problem, or network problem, or database problem, or table space problem. So we will try to identify the reason for a failure. Solution afterwards we'll find. First we have to identify the reason for the failure. So after every 5 records, a commit has been sent. So session failed in between. After loading some part of the data, we try to identify it. What is this table space means? Whenever they create a table in a database, they will put it as, they will create a table space. This is the DBA work. Table space means a memory allocated to that table. Some part of max and min extents, min extent and max extents they will create, while that is the syntax of a create table. So a memory was being allocated. Now when they tried to find what was the reason, actually for that table, memory was not sufficient, so the session failed. Because when you tried to load the data into the table, there was no space for it. So allocated space was not there, so session failed. Then we asked for the DBA to extend the table space. He extended it. Extend the table space. He extended it. Now, the question. I have already loaded 5 rows in the target table. Now, how to load the remaining records? How to load the remaining records? This is the way you do in projects. So what is the solution you do in projects? I am going to tell you in few minutes. So when the session fails in between, we'll try to find out why it was failed. So we found that there was no table space, memory allocated to the table. So DBA reallocated the memory space. Now, but the question mark is, where should I start the reloading process? After 108, where should I restart the loading process? So what I do, I'll say greater than whatever it failed at. Where did it fail? After 108, it failed. So next record is 105. So I go to the source qualifier transformation and say where customer ID is greater than. I cannot say equal to 104. I'll say greater than 104 because I have to extract 105. Please observe the data. I have to extract 105. So I said greater than 104 in the source qualifier. If I say greater than 104, there is more chances that I will not load 102 because these records are downstream. I will not load 102. That is incorrect. Or if I say greater than 101, it will try to reload. Greater than 101, if I say, it will try to reload 103 and 104 into the target table. And 107, again it will try to load. 108, it will again try to load. So I cannot say 1 greater than 104 for reloading process. So what I do? So first option ruled out. First option ruled out. Second option is remove the data from that table. Remove the data from that table and re-execute it. Remove the complete data from that table, re-execute it. It is also a challenge. Why? Imagine there are 1 lakh records you are loading into the target table and your commit interval is 10,000. So after 90,000 records loaded, which is committed in my target table. Now at 90,001, session failed. So I identified that it is a table space problem. So we extended the table space. DBA has extended the table space to that table. One solution is I cannot say greater than 90,000 because it is number of rows. It is not customer IDs, please. We are committing on number of rows loaded into the target table. We are committing on the number of rows loaded into the target table. Based on that, we are talking here. If you are not understanding, please ask. So the commit is done based on number of rows. Rows or records loaded into the target table. So now I cannot say greater than customer ID 90,001. It is not mandatory that it should load in a sequence. What is my solution? Delete all the data which was loaded, that is those 90,000 records, delete it and restart. The challenge here is, the challenge in this mapping, in this world, restart means time consuming process because you are loaded already 90,000 records. Now you are restart, you want to reload it. One is time consuming process. The other is if it is SCD type 2, in that 90,000 rows, maybe it has updated previous records, end date. Now you have to identify those and you have to roll back them to the previous status. That is a challenge. Because already I am an employee, my customer ID, I already updated the end date. If only 90,000 records are inserted, I will delete it. But some records when we updated in the target table, that is one challenge. It's a big challenge to identify which records have updated on the end date. Becomes too challenging for you. So this also is a challenge. The most common way of doing it in projects is remove the generally in projects, in production, what they do, after the complete loading of your data warehouse into dimensions and fact table, they will take a backup of the database. DBS will do this. Everyday backup will be taken, depending on the project to project. So when they take the backup, now the most common thing what they do in projects is they will delete, or rather I can say they will truncate the table, or they will drop the complete table with the data and then get the data from the backup to bring it to the status of what the data was before we started this session, before the start of the session of your mapping. So, for example, today is December 5th. So if it failed while loading the data, so we'll drop the table completely. Till yesterday's data which was there in the backup, that I will take it and put it in my dimension table. It will be very fast. It's a copy of that table, so the backup and recovery process, they will do that. DBA will drop the table and put the table back. Then you restart the session from the start. This is time-consuming process, but is proven in projects. So generally, they will take this route of doing this process. Provided, most important point is before they do this, every time in your career also, every time when a session fails, first identify the reason for failure. Identify the reason for the failure. Then we can find a solution. If you don't know the reason for the failure, then it will be too challenging for you in projects. This is the easiest part. Every time you do the solution. Solution is remove the data from the table, get it from the backup. That everybody knows. But just because the session failed, so remove the data from the table, put the backup back, and restart the session. Again, it will fail. I hope you are getting me. So identify the reason for the failure and find a solution. So, but it is a time-consuming process. It's a proven in projects. So you do this practically in projects. So I give you another solution for this, but this is what people do. Do you have any questions regarding this failure of session and how to start back to these sessions? How to do it in Informatica, different processes there that I will discuss. What I asked him, this is the way you do in projects or you do it in different way? Yasim, are you there? Oh. Can't hear. So time consuming process, but proven track in our experience. This is the way they do it. Because you loaded fact table, you loaded dimension tables, session fails, you have to be very careful, so they do this process. Now, the next thing in Informatica, I'll give you a business solution of our case. This is already previous. It represents the fact we cannot remove the data, so we will take it from the backup and reload the whole data, time-consuming process. One important point you have to understand is you are committing the data in the target table based on the number of records. The commit is based on the number of rows loaded into the target table. That is, you may set it as 10,000 or 5 or 55, whatever you want to put it, you may do this. Now, next question. If I commit it, not based on the data, that is number of rows, not on this, but based on some field data, some column data, like where I am loading the data into my target table. Based on customer ID data, I may commit it, or based on dealership ID data, I want to commit it, not on number of rows loaded into the target table. This way I can reduce my reload process. So, based on some column data, like after every customer ID I load, I send a commit to the target table. If you can fetch the data based on customer ID and load the data based on the transaction on customer ID. That is, you are committing the data on customer ID. So, let's say you have data like this, like customer ID, whatever data. So, you have 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 1110. So you are loading the data into a target table. After every customer ID changes, for every customer ID changes, I will send a commit to the target. That is, after I load 101, I will send a commit. After 102 I load, I will send a commit. After 103, I commit. Now session failed. So I will definitely know that there is a problem with 8104. So I will rectify the data problem or table space problem. I rectify the problem. Next time when I start the session, I'll go to the source qualifier and say greater than customer ID greater than 103. So I don't need to worry about the failures. Previously we were loading on number of rows loaded into the target table. Here we are going to commit based on the transaction data. So I send a commit like this. So whenever there is a 101, 102, or you have like this, let's say 101, 101, 101, then 102, 102, 103, 103, like this. If you are loading the data into the target table, I will commit it based on customer ID. That is, when the data in the customer ID changes from one record to another record, then one row to another row, then I will send a commit. Means how? So in the target table, when I load the data, first record loaded 101, I don't commit it. Again 101, I don't commit it. Another 101 loaded. Then when I am loading 102, before I load this data, because there is a change, I send a commit. Then 102, I load it. Then when the next record 103 is coming, before that, I'll send a commit. Rather than doing on one record at a time, I will do it based on the transaction data. Based on the transaction of the data, I will commit it. Not on the number of rows hard-coded, like I will commit only when there is a, based on the data in that process. If it fails after 101, let us take the scenario. You loaded 101, 101, 101. Then you sent a commit. Now you loaded 102, inserted. Now 102 while loading failed. Now you are double sure that till here whatever it is loaded is committed. So we know that if it has updated some records till 101 we are fine. Next time we'll rectify the problem and we say greater than, in source qualifier we will say greater than 101 because we are double sure that 101 is committed and we know that it has loaded perfectly. Session failed here, so definitely 50% of my job is perfect or 40% is perfect. Rather than restarting from the start, I am starting where it has failed. Are you with me? If it fails in first transaction, no commit will be done. Now you say, your question is, if you say you loaded 101, I'm talking about in this scenario. I'm not talking about this scenario, please. That scenario is the same. I have multiple 101s. That's what I'm trying to drive. If it, after you loaded 10, when it failed while loading the data of 101 of your second record. So if it fails, you rectify the problem. You started 101. First record also you reload because this is not committed. Because into the target you have not committed. Are you with me, Sita? Yeah. If that is your very first record, then anyway you have to reload it because the problem is with 101. So as soon as the session failed, the following records will not be loaded. So anyway there is no load. So you have to restart at 101. Okay? Now, this is called, you are committing based on the transaction of data. Data in the transaction, based on that you are sending the commit to the target table. Not on number of rows you are loading. Now look at the data. But provided for all this, you have to sort the data based on customer ID. Now look at the data. This is my source data. This is this business scenario. I am giving you the solution. This is my source data. I can put customer ID, commit, but they are unique records. There is one more problem in this. If you do it, there are, let's say you have 1 lakh records, and each one is a unique customer ID. If it is, then you have to send how many times commit? 1 lakh times you have to send the commit, which is a performance issue. How many times you send the commit, then the data loading process will become slower. Rather than in this business scenario, I have unique customer IDs but repeated dealership IDs. Repeated dealership IDs. So what I do? I will fetch the data. One solution was customer ID, but unique. 1 lakh records with unique customer ID, then it will be, for every customer ID when it is changed, it will commit it, then it will be a challenge. So if we fetch the data based on the dealership ID, then commit whenever there is a dealership ID changes. That is, I extract the data from the source. Please observe this. Order by based on the dealership ID. So whenever there is a change in the dealership ID, then I will go and commit it. If not, I will continue loading the data. So row by row, these 5 records are loaded. Extracted the data in sorted fashion. Row by row, these 5 records are loaded. Then, while loading the 20th dealership ID, while loading this data, that dealership ID 20, there is a change in this dealership ID, previous record and this record, there is a change. So we'll say, commit before you load the data into the target table. Before you load 20th record into the target table, 20th dealership ID, you commit it. So whenever there is a change in the dealership ID, I send a commit. Then 20 is inserted. Then 20 is loaded. Then the third 20 is loaded. Then when I am loading the dealership ID 30 into this target table, before I load, I'll send a commit to the target table. Before I load dealership ID 30, I'll send a commit. That is, whenever there is a change in the data between dealership ID one row to another row, then I will send a commit to the target table. Then I will send a commit to the target table. This way, I will ensure that whichever is committed is perfect. So when I committed 20, when I entered 10, committed it. So I inserted 21 record, 22nd record, session failed. So I'll rectify the problem. Next time when I run it, next time is after rectification of the problem, I say dealership ID greater than 10. So it will extract only the 20. Till 10, all the records are committed. I don't need to reload this data again. I don't need to reload this data again into my target table because I have already committed into the target table. So the business scenario is 2 things. You have to get the data in a sorted fashion in the dealership ID. I'm giving you the solution, please. Strategy for us is, please observe the strategy, then how to do it in Informatica I'll tell you. Strategy is, whenever there is a data change based on the dealership ID, I'll go and commit. But first I will get the data in order by based on dealership ID. That is 1. Second, you did order by based on the dealership ID. Second, you have to identify whenever there is a change in the dealership ID. Identify whenever there is a change in the dealership ID. Identify whenever there is a change in the dealership ID. That is, then whenever there is a change between the previous record from the previous record and the current record, current row, then you have to send commit to the target table. If there is no change in the dealership ID, because Informatica does row by row process, I am talking about row by row. That is, when it is loading the first 10, then next 10, there is no change in the dealership ID. So continue loading, continue loading. At the time when I try to load 20, so there is a change in the dealership ID between the previous record and the current record. This is current record, then I say send a commit. So three activities I have to do. One is order by. Second is identify when there is a change in the dealership ID from the previous record to the current record. Then commit. To do this, are you clear, please? If you know the strategy, then only I can. Three activities has to be done. One is order by dealership ID. Identify whenever there is a change in the dealership ID from previous to current. And whenever there is a change in the dealership ID from previous to current only, then you have to send a commit to the target table. If not, continue. Now, to do this solutioning, for first option, you will use sorted transformation. Second option, second strategy, identifying the previous and current, previous dealership ID and the current dealership ID, we have to identify previous and current row. Is the dealership ID same or not? We have to identify. To do that, we will use expression transformation. Then, if the same, you continue the loading. If it is different, that is dealership ID of previous and current are same, then you should continue. Else, if it is not same, then you have to send a commit before you load the current record. Commit before you load the current record. So this is your strategy in Informatica. So to do this, should I send a commit? Should I continue? Or commit before I load the current record? If I want to do it, then Informatica provides you with a transformation called transaction control. Informatica provides you with a transformation called transaction control. That is, it will either send a commit user defined. This is we call user defined. We define it. Continue. There are three types of commits. Please look at the session properties. One is called target based commit. That is, when the target 10,000 records, you set it up. So after it loads 10,000 records into the target, it will commit. Or source based commit means whatever data is extracted, based on that it will send the commit. or you are defining it. When should explicit, this is called explicitly, you are saying target based commit is implicit, means by itself it will load 10,000, it loads 10,000 records and commits it. And after every 10,000 records it will send a commit. That is implicit. Explicit means through Informatica programming, that is mapping, you are explicitly saying that commit at this time, commit at this time. You are defining it. That can be done by transaction control transformation. So when it does, either it will continue, means it will not send a commit, or commit before, means before I load this row, send a commit to the target table, or after I load this row, send a commit to the target table, or roll back. I got an error, so you roll back now, or you roll back after you load this record, you roll back after you load this record, or roll back before you load this record. Commit before you load this record, or commit after you load this record, or continue. That's all it will do. Means transaction control transformation, what it does is, it will set that record when the row is going out of the transaction control transformation. It will set continue, means no commit. If it is set commit before, means before that data is loaded into the target table, it will send commit. Or commit after means after you load this record into the target table, send the commit. Or rollback before means before you load the current record, send a rollback. Don't commit the data, you roll back. Or rollback after means after you load the current record, you do the rollback. That's all it will do. It sends like an instruction to it. Continue, commit or not, roll back or not. It doesn't do anything. But we have to provide the logic of when to send commit, when not to send commit. When to send commit or when to continue, we have to provide that logic to the transaction control transformation. It only sends that information. Continue or commit or roll back. It will send that information, that it will do. That's all it will do. But when it should continue, when it should commit before or when it should commit after, that logic we have to build. That will be done using the expression transformation. That is using the expression transformation. How to do it? I'll explain you. So first you have to do sorting. Second step, you have to identify for every record. In our case, is the dealership ID, which is coming from my source, is the previous dealership ID, previous row dealership ID, and the current row dealership ID are equal or not. If they are equal, then it is same dealership ID. So you say in the transaction control, continue, or else you say commit before you load the data. That is, when the dealership ID changes, you commit before you load the data. These are the three activities you do in Informatica. So, clear with the concept, please? How to do it? Now I will tell you. So first you have to sort it. Transaction control will send continue or commit or rollback. But when to send continue, when to send commit, we will do it by using the dealership ID, by using the expression transformation. Sita and Deva, are you clear? Beautiful concept, but you have to understand it. Now, I'll import the table from the database. SRC Transaction control customers is the table name. Target table TGT brand control customers. So mapping create M underscore advanced topic to TGT brand CNTRL. Class layer required. Wait. Okay. I'll create a mapping. Brand control customers. Target. TGT brand control customers. Please hold on for a minute. I'll be back in a minute, please. Okay, I'm back. I hope you are able to hear me. Best practice expression. So whichever columns I require, I'll take it. I need all the columns. So I'll put it in my target table. The expression transformation. The transformation create. You have to sort the data. You are sorting on dealership ID. You can sort it on customer ID also, but more unique records. So I sort it on dealership ID. So I sort on dealership ID is my key. Now our strategy to identify whenever there is a change in the dealership ID. Our strategy is to identify whenever there is a change in the dealership ID. Here I want to discuss something pertaining to variables. Here I want to discuss something pertaining to variables of Informatica or any general variable. Let's say in a programming, what you do, you initialize a variable. You will define a data type. Any variable in a general programming, what you do, you give it that data type, then you say initialize. What is the beauty of variable? Now first iteration. What you do? Count is equal to count plus 1. So what you do? First iteration, what it will do? It will say 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Now when you do the second iteration, that is the loop in it, again it will go to the same formula, count is equal to count plus 1. But what value it will put it in this? Just a previous value. That is 1 which was calculated, it will put it here. So it remembers the previous values, just the previous value. So 2. Then the third iteration, what it will do, count is equal to count plus 1. Again it will remember the previous count, what it was stored, that is 2 plus 1 is 3. So variables remember previous values, just the previous. Are you with me? Yeah, it holds one value. Previous value it will hold, then again it will overwrite. Into this count variable it will overwrite. First time initialized to 0. So 0 plus 1, 1. So count will hold now 1. Next time you say count is equal to 1. So count plus 1. So previous value is 1 plus 1, 2. Now count will hold 2. So it will hold the previous values. That is the functionality of a variables. Same way, what is the relevance to us? The relevance to us is from the source you are getting the dealership ID. What it will do. Let's say you have 10 dealership ID coming in. What is my requirement? Is there previous row dealership ID and current row dealership ID? Is it same or not? That I have to find out. If it is same, then I will say in the transaction control you continue. If it is different, change, then I say commit before you load the current row of data in the target table. That is what I wanted. So we need to find the previous and current, previous dealership ID and the current dealership ID values. Like count is equal to count plus 1. So in Informatica, to do that, we use a transformation called expression transformation. For each and every record, I need to find the current and the previous dealership ID. How do we do it? In traditional programming, you just assign to the same count variable. Here what we'll do, we'll create one field called dealership old, make it a decimal. I want to hold the previous value to compare it, so I make this as a variable port. In Informatica, variable ports will hold the previous values. It's like a temporary storage area. You will use the variable ports for comparing previous to current. Comparing values, for that you use variable ports. There is no need to initialize. It will initialize if it is numeric or decimal to 0. If it is strings, just blank in it. These variable ports are not visible. To take the value out of this variable ports, it has to be assigned to another variable. Variable ports can be assigned to another variable or to a output port. So variables are used for two things. One for simple calculations, where you put it in a variable, assign it to another variable, then write it into output port. That is for calculation purpose. You cannot take the value out of the variable port. So it has to be finally assigned to a output port only. Output port only. You cannot take a variable port value out. So variable ports are used also for comparing values. But to take it out, it has to be assigned to a output port only. That is the fundamental rule. So variables are not visible in the normal view, only it is visible in the edit view. What I mean by this is called edit mode. If you see in the normal mode, you cannot see that variable port which you have designed in the mapping. Now, what will happen? A record will come into your dealership ID, old and new. So please observe it very carefully. This is dealership ID. You defined one variable port and you said dealership ID old, and you assigned that to this variable port you have assigned the dealership ID. That is your input value, you assigned it. Just look at the game very carefully. Now there are multiple records. 101 customer with 10 dealership ID, 105 customer ID with 10 dealership ID, 106 4 customer ID with 20 dealership ID. This is the data from your source. Row by row Informatica comes in. For the first record it will come dealership ID 10. For the first it will be initialized to 0. Then you are assigning to this port. This is your variable port, please. You are assigning this dealership ID. So variable port will contain 10. So whenever they are same, you say to transaction control continue. Then the second record comes in. You assign it. They are both same. This is your previous record. Now this is your current record. There is a difference. This dealership ID current record and dealership ID old previous value which is stored, there is a difference. If there is a difference, previous record and current record, you have to send a commit to the target table. For that you use commit before in the transaction control. But how to tell to the transaction control when to send? That is when there is a change in the dealership ID. That is dealership ID which is the original current value is not equal to the dealership ID of the previous record, that is identified by this field called old, then you say commit, else you say continue. That instruction you give it to the transaction control. To do that, this is equal to this or not, we will use what we call it as a flag, the flagging of that record. The flagging of that record, we will do it. In that we will write the condition. That is, if the dealership ID, which is my current record, if it is equal to dealership ID old, then set that flag to 0 or set it to 1. If it is equal, set the flag to 0 or set it to 1. If it is 0, ask the transaction control. If the flag is equal to 0, ask the transaction control to continue. If it is not 0, you say commit before. Yeah. I'm just giving the syntax logical things. So if there is a difference, if it is equal, set that particular record flag to 0. If not, set it to 1. If it is 0, continue. If it is not 0, then commit before you load. So this is equal to this. Then I'll create a flag. This is also a decimal, a marking I will do. You should also make this as a variable port. Why, I'll tell you in few minutes. In this we will write the condition. If dealership ID is equal to dealership old, you are assigning it, comma, if it is same, 0, else 1. This is the condition. I'll put this rename dealership. This is my name to it. Both are variable ports. You assign it. As variable port value, you cannot take it out. It may be 0 or 1. You cannot take it out. Variable data cannot be taken out. So I'll create one flag out and make it as an output port only and assign this flag. Because I cannot take it out, I will assign this flag to this. This flag value will be assigned to it because I cannot take it out. Variable port value cannot be taken out. Finally, it has to be assigned to a Informatica. Finally, it has to be assigned to a output port only. So if you see in the normal view, you cannot see the variable ports. It has to be in this format, in this sequence only, please. I'll tell you why and what is the reason like that. I'll tell you. So dealership ID, dealership old. For that you assign the dealership. Here you have to assign that dealership ID to this. So this value is assigned to this variable port. Then you will check the condition. If it is previous or current, same, 0, else 1. Now, transformation create, transaction control, that is TC is the syntax for the transaction control. You are doing it on dealership ID. So TC is the name of the transaction control. I'll take other columns also, please wait. Dealership ID and the flag out, I'll take it out. I'll take other columns also in few minutes. Now in the transaction control transformation, you say if flag out is equal to 0, comma, continue. Because there is no change to the dealership ID. So where are they? Built in. TC continue, TC commit before, TC commit after, rollback before, rollback after, continue. If the flag out is not equal to 0 means then it will become 1. If it becomes 1, commit before. Syntax for this. So you validate it. So I'll link all this to my transaction control flag, customer ID, arrange all iconic, save your work. So one is sorter, then you use the dealership ID, old, compare both. This is an input port, this is variable ports. Variable port value, you cannot take it out. That's why you will put the flag out assigned to it. Now you may ask me a question. Why are you assigning to this flag out? Why can't you make it as output port only? In output port only also you can write the functionalities like this. Just giving a thought process for you. Flag output port, just giving you. You would have asked me, this formula, same formula, you can write it in a variable port also, and also you can write it in output port also. Why are you writing like this? And why to assign this? You may ask me a question. For that, I'll give you the answer in few minutes. So, dealership flow should be the same. First you create the dealership ID, then you create the dealership old, then make it a variable port, assign it, then create a flag in between these two and make it a variable port and write the condition, then flag out, assign the flag to this. This you have to do, please. Then in the transaction control transformation, you say if flag out is equal to 0, in the variables under built-in it will give you continue, else commit before. If it is not true, then it is else commit before. That's the way if then else if statement works in Informatica. How it works, I'll explain you. Are you clear till here? Doing it in Informatica is very, very easy. The challenge you will face is the logical break. Now let me execute this and you observe it. Source codifier expression sorted. Another expression. This is the data in my source. I extract the data. Row by row, it will go into the sorter cache. One row after them, it will go into the sorter cache. Then sorter scans the data based on your dollar. Now, first record comes out of your dealership ID. First, please observe the data very carefully here. We took a lot of playing to put this in place. So please observe it, what we have written in this. In the expression transformation, dealership ID and dealership old. I have assigned the dealership ID to it. I made it a variable port. This flag variable port and flag out. I assigned this flag to this. In the transaction control, I said flag out is equal to 0. Continue. I should have said CTC underscore transaction underscore continue and all, but space constraint, logical understanding, I put it here. First record from the sorted transformation comes in, goes into the expression transformation, goes into the expression transformation. Please observe it. The order in which Informatica processes the data when it comes into a transformation, there is an order because there are three things in expression: input port, variable port, and output port. There are three ports. So in which order it will do the process? In which order it will do the process is expression transformation as first input ports. So in the expression transformation order, in expression or any transformation, first input ports, then variable ports, then output ports. Because variable ports can be assigned to another output ports and all that stuff. So first they will do the first input ports, then variable ports, then output ports. That is the order of sequence which Informatica does. So first input data will come into that expression transformation. Observe very carefully. In this variable ports also, when you have multiple variable ports, it will take the first variable port in the process. So first record has come. This variable port by default will have 0, initialized to 0. It will be initialized to 0. Now observe it. A lot of people get confused here. Please observe it here. So you have dealership ID 10. What did you say? 10, it will do variable ports. So in this variable ports, what it will do? First variable port it will do. So if dealership ID is 10 equal to this dealership ID old. What does dealership ID old contain? It didn't process till here, please. It is not coming here. It is doing only here now. So dealership ID old, it gets initialized to 0. Variable port gets initialized to 0 if it is decimal or integer or a number. So dealership ID is equal to 10 is equal to, observe it, 10 is equal to 0 because it initialized. It is not equal, so it will return 1. Flag will get 1 in that variable port. Then what it will do? It will go to the second variable port. It will go to the second variable port where you have assigned this dealership ID to this dealership old. Now this dealership old will be assigned 10. Will be assigned 10. Then this now variable ports process is over. Now output ports which you are taking out, it will do the process. So what is output port? This 10 and this 1. Basically this will not be there. But to give clarity, I have kept it. So what are the fields which are going out? That is dealership ID, flag out. What does flag out contain? One, customer ID, city and state going out. That will go into the transaction control transformation. In that it will check. If flag is equal to 0, continue. Else commit before. Commit before means you commit before you load this data into the target table. You commit it. Before you load the data into the target table, you commit it. That's what is the meaning of commit before. So before you load 10, it sends a commit. Anyway, there are no records in the target table, but still it will send a commit. Then it will insert this data into your target table. Now, the variable port holds, remember the previous value. What is the previous value it has now? Dealership ID old contains 10, previous value 10. I'm giving an explanation. Next, the second record comes in out of the sorted transformation, goes as an input to the expression transformation. Now it will check. If dealership ID, that is the input, is equal to old which contains stores the previous value, that is 10. If 10 is equal to 10, then it will return 0. Then again, this is a variable port value. Again it will, second variable port, this will be assigned. 10 is the same, so it will assign to this, means it updates that variable port internally. Now variable port flag contains 0 and dealership ID old contains 10 of the second record. Flag out is 0. If flag out is equal to 0, continue, else continue. So it will go and insert this record into the target table. Second 10 will come, third 10 will come with 105 customer ID. Input goes to the first variable port, 10 is equal to 10. Because previous value is also 10, in the variable port, 10 is equal to 10, it will have 0. But still it will assign that 10 to this 10. Please observe it, it will assign that 10 to this 10. Variable port, dealership ID old, it will assign that 10 to this 10. That is third record 10 dealership ID will be assigned to that variable port of dealership ID old. Output port flag is equal to 0. If flag is equal to 0, continue, load. Then 106 expression, 10 is equal to previous value of dealership ID old is 10. So 10 is equal to 10, 0. Now it will assign that fourth record dealership ID 10 to the dealership ID old variable port. Flag is equal to 0. So continue. So it loads. Now it has loaded all 10 dealership ID records into the target table. Now next record is 20 dealership ID, goes into the expression transformation. Now flag variable port 20 is the current dealership ID. What is the previous old dealership ID value holds is 10. 20 is equal to 10 means 1. There is a change in the dealership ID. Then you assign that dealership ID 20 to the old dealership ID variable port. 20 has been assigned. Now it will do the output ports. So flag is equal to 1 means there is a change in the dealership ID from the previous record to the current record. So go and commit it before you load this data into the target table. Another 20 comes in. 103 customer ID goes in. Now if dealership ID is 20 is the current record, previously assigned to that variable port, previous value is 20 is equal to 20, so it will have 0. Now that second record dealership ID, that is 20 is assigned to the dealership ID old, which has the first record, which has 20 as the first dealership 20. So flag is equal to 0, continue. So 20 is loaded. Then third 20 will come. Previous record and current record are the same. Assigns it. Flag is equal to 0. Continue. 30 is the dealership ID. Compare 30 is equal to 21. So if it is 1, go and commit it. Then the last record it will load. Same. Continue it says. It will load. And when it finds that it is the last record, final commit it will send automatically by itself. This is what is the importance of transaction control in your mappings. Clear, everybody? Any questions on this, please? Any questions on this, please? Do you have any questions on this? Open your sheet, please write it down. No, if it is in the last, what will happen? Order of process is first input ports, then variable ports, then output ports. So if you put it last, what will happen? The dealership ID old should be variable. Fine. First it will process this record, this port. If you flip that one, in which platform you work, Sita? So you have a dealership ID. Okay. Same like any programming. You have a dealership ID. Now you are saying, a lot of people do this mistake. Fine for asking the question. I created one dealership ID old port. Then you are saying, let us put the flag here. In that we'll run the function called if flag is if dealership ID is equal to dealership ID old 0 else 1. Then you are saying flags out and you are assigning the flag. This is a variable port. Sorry, this is a output port. You assigned the flag here. Flag out. I'll write it now here. You are saying this is a variable port which has been assigned the dealership ID value to it. This is your input port. Now tell me your question is, now you have data like this. Now this is your thing, right? Are we on the same page, Sita? And others also, please look at it. This is what you are asking, right? What will happen? You tell me. Observe the process. First it will do input ports, then it will do variable ports, then it will do output ports. That is the logic. That is the order of execution. So first record comes in. I'll write all the iterations right to right as much as I can. First row. Please observe it. Now what happens? What will I get in the dealership ID 10 as input? It is variable port is initialized to 0, fine. What does Informatica do? It do the variable ports next. Input ports over, it will do the variable ports next. So first variable port it will come. So you have assigned it. So it will assign 10 to this. Now it will do the next variable port. What is the condition? If dealership ID 10, dealership ID is equal to dealership ID old. So it will put 0 because the condition is true. Flag out will contain. If flag out contain will 0. If that flag which is coming into your transaction control is 0, you said continue. So first record continue. Now second row comes in. Second row dealership ID 10. It will assign this 10 to this because variable port will be done it. Flag out will contain variable port 10 is equal to 10, so it will have 0. Flag out will contain 0. So second row will be loaded. Before you load, you say continue. Itla over cheparemo. Third row comes in 10. Again you assigned it to the dealership ID old 10 because variable port is done first. Then flag will contain 10 is equal to 10 0. Flag whatever you take it out is 0. So it will say continue. Fourth record comes in. Observe it. Fourth row comes in 20. You assigned it. Now 10 will be replaced by 20. So this is equal to this 0. So it is 0. So you continue. In here, fifth record comes in. 20 is the current record dealership ID. 20 it will replace the previous in that variable port. Again it is 20. So this will become 0. So then this will become 0. And again you say continue. Then sixth record comes in, that is 30. When the sixth record comes in 30, variable port will be assigned because it assigns that. So 30 is assigned. Then again 0. So it will go and 0. Again it will say continue. And sixth record will be loaded. That will be your last record which is loaded into that. Then finally after it loads, it will send the commit. So there is no, you will commit only after the last record is loaded. You are not committing whenever there is a change in the dealership ID. No commit. After it loads 10th record, session fails. So you have to take it from great start again. Are you with me? What Rupali? Are you clear? What Venkat? Too much of explanation, huh? Our aim in life, when we train, we want to give as much clarity as possible in our strength, what we have. No, where we are committing, Rupali? By default, there is no default. As soon as you use the transaction control, go to the session properties. When you create the session, it will change to user defined. By default, we are committing. We are not committing. Where we are committing? Please speak on. I'll unmute you.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello. Can you hear me?
yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Here, because of this flag variable, when we first record comes in, the dealership ID and the old dealership ID is different, right? It's not same.
Which example?
The first record. I'm talking about the first row. It's coming. This row is coming. First row. And here flag 0 will be 1 because of the condition fail, right?
Here you are talking about?
Because
This you are talking about? This
here.
No, this will be both. Because first it will do this variable port, it will assign this 10 to this.
No, not this, the first one. Sorry, not this example. The reverse one, first, the logic we use.
Let's go to the first one. Okay. Yeah, 10 has
Here,
come in. Yeah, tell me.
flag 0 is here condition is failed because of the difference between ID and ID, right? Here
Which is,
flag 0 dealership ID and old ID. You and
it is
old.
initialized to 0, that's why it failed. The condition failed, so it will return 1.
1. So it will commit
Hmm.
the record, right? Here we are committing before
No,
taking another row.
no, you see this. Commit before. Commit before means before you load this record, send a commit.
Okay, okay. There is no row in the
Yeah.
target, right?
Commit before you load the record into the target table, it will send the commit. If you
Okay.
commit after, if you say commit after means after this record is loaded, then it will commit.
Yes.
Then in that scenario, you will have that first record in your target table.
Yeah. You are right.
Okay.
I got them. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Swami, clear, Swami? Venkat, Deba. Sometimes people say we give too much of explanation. You see, as a trainer, how much is too much, I don't know. Because a lot of people, what have we observed in the training programs, a lot of people want to learn fast. Because all is fast food era now. But sometimes people have to bear with us because uh, in the training programs, some people catch in the very first minute, some people catch late. That doesn't mean that the people who catch late are not capable. We don't believe in that. It is up to each individual's way of looking at it, doing at it. A reasonable time we look at it. So that's why we tend to be a bit slow, tend to be explaining more, in spite of people sometimes complain us. So please, advanced topic 2, please enter this. Sorry. Yeah. You are done writing this? Then session properties. Please write down this and let me know. I'll take another 15 minutes class. One small topic called constraint-based loading is there. We'll complete it so that on Sunday evening class will be the last class for you. If not, it will spill over to the next day and all that stuff. I don't want to rush on the last day. So bear with me for 15 minutes. And another small concept is there for constraint-based loading, which we will do it. Okay, are you done writing this? So source connection is a source SP14. Target connection, target SP14. Change bulb to normal. So advanced topic 2. Save your work. Now execute this. So whenever you have a transaction control in your mapping, automatically this will become user defined. By default, it will become user defined. You cannot change it to target based or source based commit. So automatically it will become user defined. Automatically it will become user defined. So workflow, we have executed it. Let us check the data in my target table. Select start from TGT, tran, CNTRL, customers. So this is the data it has loaded. Record count 6167. Select star from tran, customers. Record count 6167. It loaded. Now look at the log file. How did it send commit? Observe this. User defined commit. You have defined it, the commit point internally. So after loading 111 records, it has sent the commit. So means first sorting it is done. So how many records are there? For first select count star from, where I'm checking this dealership ID is equal to 1. So there are, after 111 records of dealership ID, 1 has been loaded. It has sent a commit. Now the next commit interval is after 344. So for dealership ID 2, total 233. 233 plus 3111 is 344. It will count like that. So 111 plus 233. So it will be 343. So it has shown you after 344. That's my mistake. So 344 it has committed. Then at 560 means dealership ID 3 216. So plus 216, it will give you that after total, it will give you the total cumulative number it will give. So this is the way it has sent the commit interval into the target table. Whenever there is a change in the dealership ID, it has sent the commit to the target table. Clear, everybody? Now this is called constraint based loading. You extract the data. Just I'll take 2 minutes break. You also take, let's say, 5 minutes break. My watch is 7:55. I'll be back by 8 a.m. Indian Standard Time. You also take 5 minutes break. Then we will do this mapping, please. Okay, everybody, I am back. Are you able to hear me? Are you there? Now, today we are going to discuss about, the next one is, we are going to discuss about extracting the data from SRC manufacture time items table and load it into multiple targets. Here, the scenario is you will load the data into multiple targets. What is so important about this loading data into multiple targets? We already loaded multiple targets. We used the filter and loaded into multiple targets. So what is the importance of this? The importance of this is there is a master detail relationship in the targets. Like if you have observed Oracle in the Scott Tiger, select star from DEPT table or select star from EMP table. What is the relation between these two tables? Is every employee will have a department number, and the department number should be existing in this department table. So here the master table is your department table, and this is your detail table. So whenever you load data into these tables, first you have to load data into department table, then you have to load into the EMP table, because there is a foreign key constraint on this EMP table. If you look at the constraint on this EMP table, primary key is there plus referential integrity is there. There is a referential integrity on department number of the department table. It is there. So every time when you insert the data into the EMP table, for every record it will refer. For every record it will refer to that department number, does it exist or not. If it does not exist, it will not load the data into the EMP table. So in this case, first you have to load it to the EMP table, DEPT table, then EMP table. So this is called constraint-based loading. So you are loading into two target tables. So if it is department and EMP, first you have to load data into the DEPT table, then EMP table. Like first you have to load the dimension tables, then last you have to load the fact table. So the same scenario they are talking here in this example. I have one source. I want to load into manufacture table and the items table. So extract the data from these tables and load it into these two target tables. So I'll go and create the mapping. Are you clear with the requirements, please? About constraint-based load, constraint on data, that is called constraint-based. Whenever you insert data into EMP table, there is a constraint, referential integrity there on the EMP table. So for every department number you execute, you put it into the EMP table. Correspondingly, that should exist in the DEPT table. Are you with me, please? This is called foreign key constraint. So first you have to load department table, then you have to load EMP table. Now solution for this requirement is you can create two mappings. You can create two mappings, one for TGT manufacturers, that is your master table. This is your master table. Then second, TGT CBL items, this is your detail table. So solution for this is, first you load the master table, then you load the detail table. This will work fine in two mappings, two sessions. But what we will do it in a single mapping, we will load the data into these two tables. So for every record, first it has to load into the manufacturer table, then it has to load into the item table. First it has to load into the manufacturer table, then it has to load into the item table for every record. So let me create the map source. I have a single source, SRC MANU items. That is one single source. Target, two target tables I need to load. TGT CBL manufacturers and items. Two target tables I need to load. So there is a foreign key constraint. So even if there is a relation like this, it will show up in the definition of your target table definition. So this is your master table, this is your detail table. So every time when you insert a manufacturer ID into it, it will go and check in this table, does it exist or not. So mapping, case study, advanced, topic 3, TGT, control-based loading, manufacturers and items. So I'll get my source, single source. I load data into two target tables. One is manufacturers, one is items. Transformation create, expression. So these are the columns. So these are the columns. So what I need, item ID, item name, description, price and wholesale cost till here. Then manufacturer ID and manufacturer name. I need manufacturer ID and manufacturer name for this and manufacturer ID for this. So I'll put it in my expression transformation. So manufacturer ID, manufacturer name to this target table. Item ID to wholesale cost and manufacturer ID to this table. I haven't used any filters or any routers in this. So it will load the data into this target table. Manufacturer ID is the primary key in this table. Item ID is the primary key in this table. Now, mapping. I will execute this session. Advanced topic 3. I have a source. That is source batch source 14. I have a target, two targets. SB14, change the bulk to normal. SB14. Now, to enable that master detail loading, first the master load, then the detail load to happen. Important point, configuration object, enable constraint-based loading. In the configuration object tab, there is something called constraint-based loading. Constraint-based loading, you enable this. This is called based on the constraint, the referential integrity constraint, it is going to load. So it knows which one is the master, which one is the detail table, so it automatically does by itself. This is called constraint-based loading. So you enable this. Before I load, you please write it down this. Or let me complete it first, then I will do it. So workflow. for this third mapping, third advanced case study. Save it. Before I go further down, let us check the data in my source table. So please observe it. There are 31 records in this. So how many for the same item, same manufacturer can be manufacture multiple items. Don't go by the manufacturer name. For conceptual sake, I have done this. So let's say 100, Nike is a company name which manufactures these items. So for same 100, there are multiple records in the source. So for 101 manufacturer, you manufacture these two. Like that, how many manufacturers are there? Select distinct. I'll select the distinct manufacturer ID from SRC manufacturer items. So how many records are there? 11. There are in the 31 records of your source, there are distinct manufacturer. Means same manufacturer can have multiple items. So you have 11 distinct manufacturer IDs. Let me select how many item IDs are there from SRC MANU items. There are 31. So when it loads the data into this table, it should load 11 records into this table and 31 records into the items table. 11 records into this master detail relationship, like your employee detail. How many records are there for your department table? There are 4 distinct records, unique records of department. Employees can have repeated department IDs. Employees can have same repeated department IDs. Same way, manufacturer will have distinct manufacturer IDs, but items will be distinct, but manufacturer ID will be repeated for that items. So it should load 31 records into this. It should load 11 records into this when I execute this mapping. So let us check the data in my target table. Select star from PGT CBL manufacturers. So it has loaded 11. Then select star from PGT CBL items. Manufacturer ID may be repeated for multiple, but how many records it loaded? 31 records. So this is what it has done. Are you with me? This is called constraint-based loading. Are you with me, please? Now actual problem statement now I will discuss with you. Data is loaded perfect. Everything is perfect. But look at the log file. When you load this data, when you are doing in support of the projects, generally when you do a support of a project in a mapping, how general tendency what we do is there any rows failed? We'll check for every load. If the rows fail, then we will do postmortem of it. Why did it fail? What is the reason and all that stuff. So your mapping logic should such a way that if the rejected rows, if there is no record should not be failed, you have to build a logic within your mapping. So why did it fail? I'll explain you now. Extracted 31 records, loaded 42 records. How? 11 into 31 into this table. This is target table. 11 into this. So 11 plus 31, it loaded 42 records, but it failed 20 records. It failed 20 records. So why? When it is trying to load data into manufacturer table, there is a manufacturer ID is the primary key. So look at the source data. This 100 repeated value, it is trying to insert into the target table. It is trying to insert the second 100 into the manufacturer table, but it is a primary key on the table, so it was rejecting that record. It was not loading into that table. It was not loading into the table because unique primary key is there in the target table, so it failed. As per the mapping, as per your logic, it has loaded perfectly. This has to fail. This remaining 100 should fail because you should have a unique record in the manufacturer table. It should not load. Basically, for our logical purpose, it should not load data, or it should not fail. We should reject that data. We should not try to load the data. If we try to load, it will fail because it is a primary key on the target table. So, in your mapping logic, you have to build such a way that it should load only one manufacturer ID of 100 only. Remaining should not be loaded, should not be processed. You have to filter it out. Only one unique record has to be sent. Manufacturer ID unique record has to be sent to the target table, not repeated. Then if it sends repeated to the target table, it will not load, but it will give you a log file which says failed records, which will create a lot of problem in your support of a project. Every time you may develop this project so you know why it failed. But tomorrow somebody is supporting the project, he will face the problem, he or she will face the problem. So as a developer, you have to ensure this also in your mapping, that 100 project manufacturer ID, unique ID should load into the manufacturer table, not the remaining. Remaining should not try to load it. We have to filter that record out. We have to filter that record out. We have to filter that record out. Then how do you do it? Anybody can tell me? Have you understood the problem, please? First, have you understood? Have you understood the challenge? Please reply. Everybody clear? The problem is we have to ensure as a developer, better programming this is called. Best programming this is called, that it should not be confusing when somebody looks at the result of that mapping. What Sita, Rupali, Biba, are you clear? That you have to load unique manufacturer information into the manufacturer target table. But data is coming repeated from the source. So how to do it? So we have to build a logic such a way that it should load the first record of your manufacturer ID. From the second record, it should not even try to load it. Means you have to reject that record, drop that record of even processing it. From even going till the target table, we should drop the record. Only one record of unique manufacturer ID should go, not all the remaining records should go. So what to do? So the solution is, we have to check, is the manufacturer ID coming from my source? Does it exist or not in the target table? If it does not exist, then go and insert the data into the target, else drop the record. So multiple target tables, use router, one for target manufacturer, one for item manufacturer. So you need to load data into the target table. You have to check is the manufacturer ID which is coming from my source, does it exist or not. So what will you use? You will use lookup transformation. In that we will put manufacturer ID which is coming from your source is equal to manufacturer ID which is coming from my target. So in this example, target does not have data, no data in the target table. So first record of 100 manufacturer ID will come and do a lookup. Condition failed. So it will return a null value. In a router you say is it null? No. Then you go and insert it. So manufacturer 100 goes in. Second record of 100 comes in, goes to the lookup. Again it will return a null value for the second record. Then you are going to insert it. Then it will fail because of foreign unique key constraint. Then third record of 100, same 100 will come. No record exists, so it will return a null. Then again it will fail the third record because unique key violation. If you use the lookup transformation, this is the problem. Then what is the solution? Anybody? I have to filter out the data. Anybody else? Yeah. Dynamic lookup cache will work here. What will we do is, we'll use dynamic cache will use new lookup row concept. So if it inserts into the cache, it will return 1. That is for the first record it will do. From second record, it may you don't need for the second record. If the second record comes in, even if it updates also, you don't need that condition into your. So what you do, if you take only if new lookup row is equal to 1, that record you will load. Other records you don't even load it. So it will be dropped at the router itself. It will be dropped at the router itself. So you will take only new lookup row is equal to 1. And there are no associated ports, please. Somebody asked yesterday, in what scenario you will not use associated ports? This is the scenario. We are only checked. That's all. One condition only we are looking at. If the record does not exist, it should insert into the cache. From the second record, it will scan the cache, it exists. But we don't want to do for the second and third record. Automatically, we will filter it out in the router transformation. So no associated ports will be used. Only we will use new lookup row in this concept. So let me go back. Transformation, create lookup on TGT TDL manufacturers table. I already imported it as my target. So I'll take it from there. If you haven't understood, please ask me. So I'll take the manufacturer ID and put it into this table. Remove the manufacturer name. Just this is my input to it. Condition, manufacturer ID is equal to manufacturer ID input. No associated ports. Properties, use dynamic lookup cache. Insert else update. You have to select this. So automatically it will create a new lookup row. That is one. For items also, I am doing it to make it very clear. So lookup, you don't need to actually do it, but for completeness I am doing it. Because there are unique records in the target table, source table for items, so there is no problem at all. But for you, for completeness, I will do this. They are facing only problem in this. But still, if you have a scenario where you have items, multiple items are there, you don't want to load it, that scenario I am taking into consideration. Condition, Item ID is equal to item ID input. Properties. Dynamic lookup cache. Insert else update. Now transformation. Create router. You put the constraint based loading like that only, but here look at it very carefully. One condition, new lookup row which is coming from my manufacturer. I rename this as manufacturer, please. I'll take another row, new lookup row from my items. And the remaining data from this table, from my expression to my router transformation. What is the group condition? One is for your manufacturer. What will be your group condition? If new lookup row is equal to 1. If new lookup row is equal to 1, then it will have only one record. If it is 2 or 0, it will not consider it. For items, new lookup row of items is equal to 1. So it will filter out the records in the router transformation. This is called constraint based loading, please. This is the solution for that error, which is not error, which is giving a wrong information. So new lookup row, manufacturer ID is equal to and manufacturer name. Only when it is 1 it will do all this. If not, it will not do anything. So we want only that to be done. So save your work. Actually, you don't need for item, but for completeness, I am doing it. For completeness, I am doing it. Or you need it in one scenario. You need this also because you cannot take it from here. Because whenever the new lookup row is equal to 1 only, it will fall into this for manufacturer. So you have to use this too. This is for items, that is for manufacturers. Arrange all iconic. Save your work. Then go back. Open your session. Because you have introduced the lookup transformations. So give the connection. Please do this. Today is Friday night, I know, but please do these 2 months. Sunday evening will be the last class for you. Save your work. I will delete the data in my target table first. Now execute. Now it should not show you the error. You see this. No failed rows. So with this, I'm done for today. This is constraint based loading, don't forget it. So open your sheet, please write it down, these things. I think this took a bit long time. Thanks for your patience. I really appreciate it. But lot of discussions, lot of thought process we have to explain. If I go with my general explanation and this thing, it will take hardly 1 hour, 20 minutes. But we have discussions and all that stuff. That's the reason. It took 2 hours. So when you listen to this recording in the middle, after the first mapping, you will see a long gap in between. So, but you fast forward it and listen to the class. Are you done writing this, please? Then write the connections yourself. So don't forget to put that constraint-based loading in the session properties. Do not forget it. With this, I am done for today. Any questions, please?